So you've just heard the classic song In the Mood by the Glenn Miller Orchestra. Now, however much we might be drawn to the catchy introduction by the saxophones, the trumpets, the trombones, the whole piece of music is tied together by a very important feature, which is the walking bass line. Now this bass line follows the same pattern as the 12-bar blues, which you've already played before using the online bass guitar. However, today we're actually going to start using some music software properly, and we're going to be inputting or sequencing in this walking bass line. We're going to use Google Chromelab Songmaker, which you've used before. However, we're going to have to do some new things with it in order to start using it properly, like we would any other professional music software. So each box you can see here represents a note in the chromatic scale starting on C. It's really important to think about this chromatic scale. That means that we use every note rather than using just the white keys on the piano. Now it's important to note that on a stringed instrument like a bass, there wouldn't be white or black keys, so we would just have to think in these individual steps moving up. Alright? And so this is a great way to start to visualize that and to think outside of just the piano. However much the pattern of a piano is a great thing to look at, a great visual tool for learning our different sort of groups of notes. We'll also start to think in numbers soon, so keep that thought in mind. You can see here that I've numbered our individual keys, our white keys on the piano here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then when we get to 8, it's in brackets because that would be the same as 1. However, in music, when we get to the same note again, we can often call that an octave, or in fact we always call it an octave. So C to C or D to D. Octave, oct meaning 8. Yeah, just like an octagon, an 8-sided shape. Don't ask me to explain October. Well, if you really want to know, it was supposed to be the 8th month before we have the calendar we have today, but we're getting off topic slightly there. So let's just remember octagon, 8-sided shape, octave, 8 notes. Okay, so that's the first thing that we need to sort of bear in mind. But also, we need to remember that these sharps can be called flats. Yeah. It depends which direction you go to it from. If you were to go up from C, it'd be called a C sharp, but if we go down from D, it'd be called a D flat. These are I like to use the word sort of auxiliary notes. They're in between. They're used to create new or different flavors. But we'll come to that again another time. So, you're going to have to load up Chromelab or Songmaker in Chromelab, and you're going to have to follow some very, very important steps. And if you don't follow these steps, then your music is not going to end up sounding correct. So, in settings, you're going to have to change what we call the scale to chromatic. We've just talked about chromatic. And we're going to have to change our start on to low C. And we're also going to have to change our length to 12 bars. Okay, so we're going to do that together now, or I'll show you. You could always be watching this video and doing it at the same time, and pause the video, follow that step, and then start up again when you're ready to move on. So here we go. We're going to go to our settings. We're going to change our scale to chromatic. We're going to change our start on to low C because it's bass, so it's low. We're going to change our length to 12 bars, and then we're good to go. Okay, so you can hit the tick, and that's that. Now it might be that actually you can't quite see as many boxes as I've got here. That's not the end of the world. Okay, we can, if you were to look up to here, you will be able to see a minus or a plus magnifier, or it might be that you just hit Control and then minus and plus on your keyboard. You can actually change how many boxes you can see, but I'm going to leave mine as it were. You can experiment with that to find out what best works for you. Okay, let's go back and have a look at what we're actually going to have to try and do within this grid here. Okay, now I've given you this next slide with a lot of instructions on it. First thing to look at here is to understand how the grid works. We've got 12 bars in our sequence, okay, or in our pattern. However, we need to know how long one bar is, and luckily for us, Songmaker actually shades each bar alternating between a white colour and a grey colour. And you'll see that actually within each bar there are lots of other little boxes, and each bar has 4 beats in it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can see that each beat is split into 2 halves. So you're going to have to bear that in mind and make sure that you don't input notes too close together thinking that they're beats when actually they're only half beats. We can't actually make a note last a whole beat in Songmaker like we might be able to in other software. So what we need to do is just leave that space, and that note will act as a whole beat because we've not got anything there. Okay, so that's the first thing to take on board. There's other things that you need to do, like make sure you scroll down to the bottom so you've got the lowest note. Slide your tempo to the right until mine's on 162 there. 180-ish will give you a good sort of decent sound that maybe doesn't sound too boring, a good pace to your music. And you'll probably want to change your instrument to piano. Marimba is not going to be a good instrument because the notes are going to be too low, they won't sound very good. However, you could go for strings or synth if you wanted to be a little bit more kind of like modern. We'll maybe play with that a little bit later. Okay, you can see that I've also put in a bass drum and a snare drum on each note, alternating between the two. It actually goes 1, 2, 3, 4. It would be helpful if Chromelab had numbers at the top here, because other software does, but that's fine. It's good to maybe get into the habit of being able to see these things without the numbers there as a guide. So all of this should help you to get yourself set up, and then you've actually got the notes that you need in here: C, E, G, A, B flat, A, G, E, C. Now these are different to the notes that you had for the bass guitar, because the bass guitar started on E. We're going to start on C because that's the first note that we see on our piano picture here. And in fact, when you come to play this on the piano, it will be a lot easier if you know this order of notes. So let's go to Chromelab and have a little look. Now, you don't need any more than these notes to begin with, and you could just try and mirror it using the colours. Okay, but C, E, G, A, B flat. We could try and remember that order of notes to begin with. So let's go to Chromelab and let's see if we can get that in. So we scroll down. Can't see my scroll down for some reason, but here we are. Now there's that change we need to make, marimba to piano. Change our tempo up. Let's just put it up to around about there. That's fine. 165. We needed C. We needed E. Now, like I said, you could just copy the colours or look at the pattern. But the idea here is that you could count up your chromatic scale. We need E next. So C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. There's our E. The next note we needed was G. We could do the same thing. So up our chromatic scale. F, F sharp, G. Let's just hear those few notes. Okay, that sounds pretty good to me so far. So C, E, G. The next note we need is A, so G sharp, A. And then we needed a B flat. Ooh, so B flat, A sharp are the same note, so we're on an A sharp, B flat's the same note. There we go. And then the great thing about the walking bass line is once it's walked up, it just walks its way down. So you can see the notes you've used, so you can actually just, oh, not quite. There you go, we're ready to go. Now I've given you an order, so let's just go back to the slide. And it says that actually you need to do that first group of notes twice. So let's just go back in to Songmaker. Whoop, not quite. And we'll just put that order back in. Okay? Now it does tell you what to do next. So you've got the whole order here. So the next thing is F, A, C, D, E flat, D, C, A. Now I don't expect you to remember all of those notes in one go, so you'll have to switch back and see, but I do know the order, so I'm going to carry on here. Okay, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to move to F. So E, we were there, so one note up, F. Okay, we've already got an A over here, so we can actually start looking at similarities between what we've already done to kind of like streamline it and make it a little bit easier for ourselves. A sharp B up to C. Okay, so a helpful thing to look at as well is when you get to this thicker blue line here, that's our octave. So C, there's C again. And then we needed a D, and then we needed an E flat, D, back down. Oh, hold on a second. There you go, got there in the end. So we needed to do that once. Let's just double check. So we had F, A, C, D, E flat, D, C, A. Yeah, that looks right to me. And then we actually go back to the first one. So there's a lot of repetition within these bass lines. In music we like repetition. Repetition actually makes things sound a little bit nicer. Okay, so let's carry on now. We've got one last bit to do. G, B, D, B. Let's just get that bit. So we'll go back. So we had an A here, so there's our G. Let's go for, we had a B flat before, so there's B. You see what I'm doing? Yeah, there's always a pattern in music. Then the next part was, let's double check before we carry on, F, A, C, A, so face. You might remember that from our music lessons. That's actually spells the notes in the spaces in the stave, so there's a nice little connection. So, and then we need to go here to F, oh, A, there's our C because it's the thick line. And then actually, because of the whole repetition thing, being good to the ear, we actually got the same thing again that we started on. Now we'll talk a little bit more about the kind of reasons why this pattern works the way that it does. As we move forward. Okay, so there we go. Shall we have a little play through it? I'm just going to turn it up so it doesn't take too long. So we'll go to 1-8, there you go, 1-8-3. And then it'll just loop round and round and round. And like I said, you could actually put in your bass drum and snare drum alternating between each beat. Add a couple of extra things in if you want, but don't go too crazy because otherwise it won't work. Yeah, so I've just added up a couple of little double notes there, double hits rather. To make it a little bit more interesting as it goes through. However, I'll tell you what, I'll just do something a little bit weird here to show you how it doesn't really work. If you start doing that, and then how it starts to work again when you go back into your beat. I will do 3 snare drums at the end there, like a drummer was hitting 3 snare drums as a drum fill at the end of the bar. End of the cycle rather, end of the sequence. Let's have a little look at this. So see how it just sort of sounded like it was doing a little drum solo and it kind of stopped working with the music, and in fact it drew away our focus from the really important bass line. And however much it might be exciting for a drummer to maybe show off and do a bit of a solo, there's a time for it, and in the middle of our walking bass line is not the time for it. Maybe the walking bass line might stop in the next section and the drummer would get to show off, and then we'd go back into it. So yeah, there we have it really. It's really important that we get that structure, and in fact this is going to be an opportunity for you to look at sequencing in that drum beat in a really simple way and get used to how drum beats work. Okay, you can see that here's the first bar, second bar, third bar, fourth bar. That's where I've chosen to do something a little bit more fancy there, some extra beats just to keep it interesting. And then 1, 2, the second bar along there, 3, 4, the fourth bar again. I've done the same double bass drum hit there. So there are rules and different sort of things, what we might kind of like say stereotypical kind of things to do on the drums. We'll learn more and more of those as we go through, do our sequencing. Now I'm actually going to play you another song as this tutorial kind of fades out. And I'll just speed up the tempo for when we come to that in a second, but I just want to finish off by pointing out a couple of things. Obviously what we've done is work through sequencing the notes for our 12-bar blues, our walking bass. Make sure you use that chromatic chart from the first slide to help you if you're struggling. Now the final thing is to remember to save and send me the link and show my homework. That's really important. There is a save button here and you'll get a link and you can just copy that and drop it into show my homework. You'll also get an option to download what's called a WAV, which is an audio file which you could save, you could email to someone, say you've got like an auntie or an uncle who play in a band and you want to send them an audio file and say, hey look, I sequenced this 12-bar blues in my music lesson today, check it out. And they'd say, wow, that sounds really cool. It reminds me of In the Mood by Glenn Miller. Or they might say that it reminds them of this other famous song. And if I speed this up and just play it, you'll be able to hopefully draw the connection as it fades out. So here we go, guys. Enjoy. Good luck.